What kind of educational background and experience do you have that prepares you for this office?
I do have a degree in accounting. I have taken management and supervision classes in the private sector. I was an office manager for one of our local general contractors. I've worked very closely with Eldred and the entire staff for the last 4 years, and have a very good working knowledge of how the office runs, not just the software system, but you need to know how it interacts with what's going on with the judges and, like I've always said, the other departments. I come from a family of public servants, and it's something we do. It's in our blood, and it's my turn to give back, and I just feel very strongly that I can do this and want to do this.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Well, I've already talked about my CCAP experience. So I've been with CCAP for 9 years. You know, we support every piece of court function that there is. We actually sometimes drive court function because of the changes we've made, for better or worse. I also have experience as a child protection worker. I was a child protection worker here for 1 year in Rock County, 3 years up in northern Minnesota, and I worked on a case management system, much like CCAP, for the social workers in Minnesota at the statewide level. I think experience is important. And while this isn't a debate style format, I think the question must be asked of Ms. Gackstatter is her initial press release says 20 years experience with the court. Her literature says that she has 11 years in the Clerk of Courts office. It's 4 years in the Clerk of Courts office. She worked 7 years with the county clerk doing payroll. So
And then I was with the Clerk of Courts prior to being with the clerk's office.
Well,
Okay. And I want to ask, how many people are on the help desk up at CCAP right now?
all of the business process analysts sit on the help desk.
And
So
how
there's
many?
about 20 of us.
Okay. I just didn't know that before.
We're getting information all over the place here. Peter, you done?
Yep.
And
Okay.
that was misquoted by me, by the way. So I
Sue?
apologize for
What's
that.
that?
For 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
I
We
apologize.
said today, so.
Okay, guys. What educational background and experience do you have that prepares you for this office?
Well, I stated I did attend Madison Business College for a year, but I do have 24 continuous years of work experience in the Clerk of Courts office. I feel my experience as a deputy clerk and a supervisor will provide me the insight to manage that office. I have a wealth of job knowledge. And again, I have a good working relationship with law enforcement agencies and attorneys, public defender.
Okay, thank you. So we're starting with Pete for this next question. How does this, why is it important that this be an elected position as opposed to an appointed position or a hired position? Why is this a political issue?
Well, I mean, I think it is important that it's an elected position. I'm not so sure that it should be a partisan position. So I don't think we should be a Democrat or a Republican necessarily. It's not like you're going to serve the public any differently depending on what party you're from. You know, if any one of us gets elected and a Republican walks up to the window, we're still going to take their money to vote. The important part about it being elected, however, is that it would put a lot of power in one person's hands. Not such a big deal here in Rock County because we have 7 judges. And those 7 judges would have to, because by statute, the Clerk of Courts office is appointed by the county judges in our case. And so those 7 judges would have to work together. It does make a difference in about 50 of the counties where there's only 1 judge, and that 1 judge would have all the power to appoint that person to the office. So it would lead to, you know, favoritism that wouldn't work out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Sue?
I'm gonna see it both ways. I would like to see it not political, to keep the politics out of the office, but I also feel the voters should get a chance to hear the person that's best qualified to decide and have their choice on who should be there for the court.
Okay, Jackie?
Okay. It's an elected position according to state statute. So unless we were to change state statute, it's really neither here nor there how we feel about what the position should be. I agree it should be elected. We should have a say in who our representatives are. Whether or not it should be a partisan position, there again, like Pete said, we're not going to discriminate against someone because they're not of our, political persuasion, so to speak. It really doesn't matter because, unless you're wearing a name tag saying, wherever you are, we're not gonna know and we're not gonna care because that's not how the court system works. We're here to represent all people. So, and that's, for me, I'm here to represent all and regardless of your political persuasion.
Thank you. Okay, next question, we're starting with Sue. To whom is the Clerk of Courts answerable? Who's your boss? I mean, that's.
Not being in Clerk of Court, I assume it's the county board. I really don't know who we answer to.
Okay, Jackie?
The voting public, that's our boss. We work with the judges and with the county board and county administration. But our bosses are the people who elect us in. It's the voting public.
Pete?
I would agree. I mean, the citizens of Rock County elect you. You can actually be removed by the judges, however, by statute, they do have some ability to remove a clerk of court from office, but then that position would be elected, whoever ran for it next. But there are some other entities that are involved with your day-to-day business. So as Sue said, the County Board of Supervisors, also the Director of State Courts, because Wisconsin is a state-administered, county-run program. Many dictates come down from the state, from the Supreme Court, and that need to be followed by the Clerk of Court. So there are people that influence you, however, really you only answer to the voters of Rock County.
Okay. Next question, we'll begin with Jackie. What are the problems or challenges that you see in this position?
Every day is a new challenge. It's never, like I said before, it's never the same thing twice. There's always changes in technology, as Pete has said. With that, as the clerk, you don't necessarily need to know how to run the programs, but you need people in place that can do that. There are training programs. I mean, it's not like you're going to come in there with a new system and not be trained, because that's what CCAT is for. But meeting the challenges of every day, somebody calling in sick, now we need somebody to cover court. A disgruntled, resident who's unhappy with the way the court his court case came out. A department head that didn't like the way something happened. So it's, the day-to-day challenges are the biggest challenge.
Okay. Pete?
I think another one of the challenges too is just budget issues. It is a government agency. The county board sets your budget based on, you work with the county administrator to set that budget, but then it's still a challenge to deliver on that budget. This year, actually, the Clerk of Court budget was, I believe, short by like $45,000 in mostly because of revenues didn't meet projections as they were projected. So that's a constant struggle, always trying to make budget, and actually you'd like to exceed your budget. It's one of those issues that is a constant nowadays in government, a budget that's driven by mostly staff costs. You have to have the staff, but then there's the other pieces, the non-staff costs that you have to maintain and work to get increased revenues.
Okay, Sue?
Well, I feel my biggest challenge is, as clerk of circuit court, is adjusting to a different role in the clerk of court's office. Abraham Lincoln believed your organization will take on the personality of its top leader. I need to set the example, be a good role model for my employees. They must not only hear what they're expected to do, but also see. It's important for me to let my staff know that the honor will be theirs if they succeed, and the blame will be mine if they fail.
Okay, thank you. So then we move to Pete as the first person on his next question. And it's kind of linked to challenges and so on. What kinds of things would you think needed to be changed or studied if you were to get this office?
So one of the things that I would really look at doing is, I think that from my perspective at CCAP, the court system in Rock County has become kind of a silo within the county agency, or within the county itself. Doesn't have the connections with some of the county agencies that I think are necessary to make the function of the whole county work as it should. So that would be one of the things that I would look at doing, is building back some of the bridges that with the other agencies. The Sheriff's Department, Child Support, these are all things that are coming along technology-wise. We need to have good relationships with them. The DA's office, they have their own case management system, and changes are coming to that they're going to be sending the criminal complaints through an interface that are signed. So those relationships with other county agencies need to be in place so that the work can flow smoothly.
Thank you. Sue?
Well, first, I'm gonna listen to my staff. I wanna find out if they have any ideas in regard to improvements in the office. I wanna speak maybe with other clerks of court in the state to see if there's better ways of doing things in the way that they're being done in our office. I will reinforce the teamwork concept. I'll learn and focus on ways I can encourage my staff to do better and have pride in what they do. And I will work hard for the taxpayers to manage the clerk of court's office as efficiently as I can. And I will keep customer service as a top priority.
Thank you. Jackie?
Can you repeat it real quick for me?
What kinds of changes
Okay.
would you like to make, or what kinds of things would you like to examine?
Well, for me, the one phrase I just really have a hard time with is, this is the way we've always done it. Once I hear that, it's time to change something. There's always changes, whether it's relationships with departments because you've got a change in leadership. We're going to be having a new county administrator starting very soon. That's going to change the dynamics of what goes on with budgets and that kind of thing. Working with the DA's office, the Sheriff's Department, those are all elected positions. So if there's a change in the election, then there's a change in your working relationships with those departments. The teamwork within the office right now, personally, I've never seen it better. There's room for improvement. That's something we can discuss as a department. I just foresee, more with the technology and that kind of thing, and relationships with outer departments versus what's going on within the department.
Okay, thank you. And so the first person for the next question is Sue. I'm assuming, and maybe I'm wrong, that like every other state agency, the Clerk of Courts office has been suffering from budget cuts. What impact do cuts have on the operations of the Clerk of Courts office? And if you have thoughts about a solution or a way to minimize that impact?
I've really not had much to do with the budget in my experience in the office. I was more on the clerk's end, but I know there's ways you can, make it work. Like, I know, at least when I was there, we recycled files, to save money. So money would be used at some other point. Overtime, I know could be an issue, but, we just take day to day and see what happens. But not had really any experience with the budget.
Okay, thank you. Jackie?
You know, case files are increasing, you know, unfortunately with the economy that we have, you know, we're only getting busier, but our staff is not increasing. So, you know, we're obviously working, you know, instead of harder, we're working smarter. And, you know, continue on with that kind of work environment where we work together. You know, there's always expenses that you can look at to cut, and revenues to increase. You know, we've looked at some different options as far as collecting old fines and stuff that are out there that, you know, have been collected. We use the state income, you know, there's a tax intercept program that we use. I want to try and expand on that and increase those revenues through that so that, you know, we can offset any expenses with those new revenues.
Thank you. Peter?
So the court system in Wisconsin is largely self-funded through surcharges that you pay when you get tickets for things like that. The staff time is paid at the county level, and so the county board is generally not going to give you more money for more staff. And so the problem then becomes, well, how do you increase your revenues? With some of the connections that I have, I know the counties that are doing really well with collections, so I plan on using those connections to set up best practices. Also at the state level, even while I work now, I've been pushing for us to put together collection workshops so people can share their experiences. We have a neighbor right next door, Walworth County, that is doing wonders in collections. And so to bring them in and let them talk to all the other counties within the state to share their experiences and their successes.
Okay, thank you. We'll begin the next question with Jackie. What is the Clerk of Courts' role in connection with the state other than the administrative reporting role? This is a question from the audience.
We are governed by statute, and you know, as he has said, so if, you know, changes come down from the state level, that is something we would have to implement. We work with, you know, CCAP obviously is the software and, you know, that kind of thing. You know, you work with other, you know, as he has also said, other counties and stuff. There's an association of Clerk of Courts, and you form a relationship with those people, and you can, you know, gain ideas from each other. There's conferences that that I would be attending to, again, gain information from them, and, you know, we could work together to come up with some solutions to problems that we're all experiencing.
Thank you. Pete?
So, I mean, there's obviously, I know the state connection fairly well. I work for the state agency that is the provider of all the IT services for the court system. But that has given me a unique perspective to see some other things that should be happening out of Rock County. And one of those things is advocacy at the state level. A county the size of Rock County should be advocating for itself and for counties of similar size. One of the things I plan on doing is to use my position to go up to Madison, much the way that Lori Stotler has used her Clerk of Court position to advocate for election reform. I want to be able to talk to legislators about legislation coming down that's going to affect CCAT, affect the counties, surcharges, and also CCAT actually runs off of a steering committee, and I plan on getting on that steering committee, and that actually, anything that CCAP does has to be approved by that steering committee.
Okay, thank you. Sue?
I have no idea. I don't have an honest answer to that question. I haven't really worked in that capacity either.
Okay. So next then we're starting with Peter. And it's somewhat along the same lines. I mean, how would you make and keep positive connections with all of those kinds of people that the office needs to be connected with? And if you could just name them, each of you can add to that list as question gets answered.
Well, I think starting at the county level, obviously, working with the other agencies is critical. Because, you know, we're a county, a whole county, not just a collection of agencies. So we want to be able to work well with other counties, or with other county agencies. Also, you know, to just keep training between our employees, so they're always talking with each other and communicating. So that's one of the people we need to talk to. The other, as Jackie said, there is a clerks association, and so there's ways to talk to the other clerks around the state. Again, as I've said, I know or have spoken with a lot of the different clerks, and I have some of those connections already, and I think I can use those connections to benefit Rock County.
Thank you. Sue?
Could you repeat?
How would you go about making and keeping positive connections with all of those that your office is connected with, and what groups of people would that be?
Well, the offices in the courts is, or in the courthouse that we work on a day-to-day basis with is the DA's office, child support, mediation, and I assume, I mean, I know when I worked there, the relations were good, and I know we do work with also other law enforcement agencies, you know, attorneys. Again, it's customer service and customer service.
Okay, thank you. Jackie?
I just want to address, Mr. Severson has his vision of what's going on within our office. You know, Eldred Milkey, the current Clerk of Courts, has his way of, you know, running his office. There are many things that I agree with for him, but I'm not Eldred. So the way I'm going to be working with other agencies and other, you know, departments within the county is not necessarily, if at all, going to be the same way as how Mr. Milkey is working with them. Again, through the Clerks Association, you make contacts to gain information. I would like to be very involved in the Clerks Association. I know that's not something that Eldred has been in the past, in the recent past, but after as many years as he's been there, you know, it's time for some new ideas and some new blood to, you know, be a part of that association.
Okay, thank you. So our next beginner